Hey, welcome to the channel, or welcome back. It's great to see you building your skills and keeping your motivation alive at your own pace. Learning another language can be really frustrating and humiliating. Believe me, I know the situation very well. I want you to know that you have my deepest respect and support. Today, I was thinking about going out again. I was thinking of going out again? Okay. What's the difference? Anyway, have you heard about the feudal period? Have you heard of Japan's feudal period? Oh my gosh. Let's get out of here. Come on. Here we are at the expansive Zen Buddhist temple complex called Daitokuji to talk about the preposition of. Let's go. Everyone knows something about samurai, but have you heard of Japanese tea ceremony? If so, maybe you know something about Sen no Rikyu. Maybe you also know something about Zen Buddhism, right? Why do we use of sometimes and about other times? See if you can notice the differences between them. Also, disclaimer, I am no expert on Sen no Rikyu, the Azuchi Momoyama period, tea ceremony, or Buddhism. I just think that Japanese art history is pretty damn interesting. Here we go. 3 key figures helped end centuries of bloody samurai battles and regional conflicts to unite Japan into the country we know of today. Let's talk about the middle guy, Hideyoshi Toyotomi, and a very popular tea master of the time named Sen no Rikyu. The big boss, Toyotomi, was of a low-ranking background. It seemed he carried some insecurity about his lack of education, and as such, he loved to display his wealth, status, and power with ostentatious, glittering objects, stunning architecture, and even had a completely gilded tea house built for himself. He really liked when people talked about his taste, talked about his power, and talked about his skill. Sen no Rikyu, in contrast, was of wealthy merchant class near Osaka, and he preferred a more subdued style. He was a fan of simple, unadorned, and rustic tea vessels, focusing on natural aesthetics and physically tiny tea interiors with extensive psychological spaces. The one born of low rank became obsessed with showing off his long list of achievements, his skills, and his power and wealth, while the one born of merchant rank chose a more introspective philosophy and style. The legend of the tea ceremony, Rikyu, turned away from the elaborately designed tea sets of the time. He instead aligned with aspects of Zen Buddhism, collectively called wabi-sabi. He promoted the embrace of imperfection, the quiet acceptance of the passage of time, and liberation from the fear of aging, of disease, and of death. Tea ceremony turns our focus away from stresses of the past and anxieties of the future toward absorbing the unique moment that we have, relaxing with a friend and some strong green tea. As you might have guessed, a few accidents or incidents occurred and tension grew. Talk of the problem or talk about the problem inevitably spread throughout Kyoto. Toyotomi demanded that Rikyu publicly apologize and subjugate himself to Toyotomi's omnipotent authority. Rikyu refused to apologize, and instead, in 1591, at the age of 69 or 70, he went to Toyotomi's pleasure palace, had his last tea ceremony, wrote a poem, and ended his own life by his own sword. But hold on, this video is about prepositions, isn't it? Of course it is, you know it. That simplified overview about a special moment in Japanese art history contains all of the examples we need to study about of, and about. There are about 60 examples so far, with one of them in Japanese. See if you can find it. However, now it's about to rain, so it's time to go back. We start off with of. Does of show possession? Is of the opposite of on? Don't they sound the same? I'll get back to that in a minute. Let's talk about of with the following examples. The Boston Museum of Fine Art. Does the museum own the art? What about the Museum of Science? Does the science own the museum? Or does the museum own the science? Certainly not. Okay then, what does of really mean? We can see of as a simple connection. Of comes in many varieties. You must have heard of actors such as Leonardo DiCaprio or Robert De Niro. What about legendary artist Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo, aka Michelangelo di Lodovico Buonarroti Simone, for short. Of also comes in the form of Mac, such as Macintosh or McGregor. We see of contracted in O, such as O'Brien or o'clock, 5 of the clock on the 4th of July. Also, I'm sure you know of Beethoven, or you might have heard something about Eddie Van Halen. Where is the of in these two names? Of course, Ludwig van Beethoven and Edward Van Halen. The van is also of. In Japanese, of can be written as no, like sen no rikyu. You see, of is everywhere, but always in a simple way. The soldier of the year 1, 2, 3, 4 does not represent of very well. The samurai do. They are simple servants of the shogun. And by the way, why do you think I chose the farmer, fisher, the hunter, soldier, horseman of the year 1, 2, 3, 4? That's a question for serious language learners, and I know you cannot resist. Now, to answer the question we talked about earlier, what's the difference between of and off? Initially, they were the same word, meaning away, and of churned away from off in Middle English period. That's another hint. The major difference between the two lies in the pronunciation. Here's an example to practice with. Of course, I've turned the oven off. What about about? When we ask if somebody has heard of tea ceremony, we expect a yes or no answer. However, when we ask somebody if they know anything about the prices of matcha in Kyoto going up because all the tourists buying out everything, we expect that they have some knowledge of the topic. So while of is simple, about talks about a more complex connection. In fact, a circular connection. A brief look into the etymology of the word about reveals a plus bout. The a prefix can sometimes mean to, away, or against. Check out etymonline.com for more details about this and all these prepositions. We can see the to sense in advertise, approve, assign, adhere, adapt, adventure, advisor, and adjective. In Spanish, we see it in a lo largo de, in French, olé. Here are some more preposition examples. Across, to something cross-shaped. We walk across the street, making a cross shape as we do so. Along, we can walk to something long, or in the direction or feeling of something long, such as walking along the river. Also, we can use it metaphorically, as in to get along with somebody. We can get a long relationship with the person we get along well with. Around, to something round. We walk around town. We met around 5. We met about 5. About and around are similar. Abroad. Okay, broad is a measurement from side to side. A broadcast tower throws the signal as far wide as it can by being up as high as possible. The higher the broadcast tower, the wider the signal range diameter. To travel abroad means to travel across the widest area on Earth, the ocean. Abroad is casually used for travel to any other country, but the origin means to cross the sea. Now, what does the about mean in the preposition about? About refers to something round or circular, like the bow and arrow. When we bow, the body bends. The obvious example is rainbow. Bowling, the bow of a boat, or boxing bouts are all related. A bout of flu starts with a healthy body, drags it down to the worst moment of the internal biological battle, before returning the body to its original form, a circuit of health and sickness. And finally, you can understand the nuances of and about in verbs of psychology, such as think of or think about, know of or know about, hear of or hear about, talk of or talk about. One is simple, the other is complex. Finally, it's riddle time. A man left home running as fast as he could in a panic. He came to a corner and turned left and kept running. He came to another corner and turned left again and kept running. Soon he came to another corner and again turned left, still running like a crazy man. So after taking 3 left turns, he was running back home, almost completely out of breath. At home, there were 2 other men waiting for him, watching him, wearing masks. One was his enemy, and the other was just there to watch. What was happening? You have just studied of and about around 169 times. I look forward to seeing you in video number 5 to talk about direction, motive, and the verb maker too. Bye!